Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Allison K. Dagney. I am a subconscious reprogramming coach and I help women who are struggling with the aftermath of emotional and narcissistic abuse. So today we're going to talk about exhaustion in many, many forms. So my first question is, are you feeling so exhausted from the stress of the emotional abuse that you went through, that you may still be going through, that you just can't move? Can't even do simple tasks around the house? Do you feel like that you have zero energy and absolutely no vitality inside of you? So much that you're fully depleted. And my last question is, are you just going through the motions to survive, but not really living? Now, these are all signs of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. And many survivors of emotional and narcissistic abuse struggle with this on a day-to-day basis. If you can't relax, even though you're mentally, physically, and emotionally drained, and if you find yourself trying to drum up willpower just to function, then this episode is for you. But before we dive in, I want to tell you about something really exciting that I've been cooking up for you guys. So on July 1st, I'm going to be launching an online healing community space for survivors of emotional and narcissistic abuse. And I would love for you all to help me celebrate this community. So I'm going to be doing prize giveaways as part of the excitement and the buildup of this community. So I just wanted to kind of give you this information so that you can stay tuned for more details to come. I will be sharing this in my podcast on Facebook and on Instagram. So look out for those details so that you can join in all the fun. All right, so let's talk about exhaustion. Now, my goal is to help you if you're feeling this way. So I'm going to be giving you 3 ways to resolve any exhaustion that you have so that you can easily start to put these things into practice. But before we explore the 3 ways, we really need to understand a few things. So think of these things as prerequisites to taking action. So action is really important, but for us to be able to take the needed action to shift out of exhaustion, we have to start with, understanding a few things. And one really important thing is the nervous system. Number 1, if you are physically overworked, what happens here is that your body secretes stress hormones, and one of these being cortisol. Now, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I've done a lot of research on this and I am trauma informed. So what I know is that when you are physically exhausted, right, you are overexerting your physical body. Your body knows this, and what it does is it amps up the cortisol. It gives you a lot more cortisol. Why does it do this? To decrease inflammation in your body, right? So if you are doing like hard workouts all day long, plus you're running around, doing errands, taking care of kids, all these things, right? And you're just physically exhausted, the cortisol in your body is going to increase. Now, I'm simplifying this, right? Because cortisol does a lot more than this too. But for the sake of this episode, I'm just explaining this and trying to break it down simply. If you're chronically fatigued physically, right, your cortisol levels keep increasing, right? So the more that you're fatigued, the more stress that your body has, the more cortisol increases, right, to help with that inflammation and other things too. But that's a problem because your hormones need to be balanced. And if cortisol is too high, it can negatively impact your nervous system, your immune system, your heart, your lungs, even your reproductive system. So all of these systems I just mentioned are vital to being healthy, to living a healthy life. But I want us to focus on the nervous system here specifically. As I said before, I am a trauma-informed coach, and I know just how important it is to have a regulated nervous system. So in a nutshell, if you are physically spent, physically exhausted, cortisol goes up because it detects that stress on your body. And in this case, what it does is it activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight response in your body. So what that does is adrenaline and noradrenaline start surging through your body, right? Because that gets you ready for flight or fight, which then affects where your blood goes. Does it go into your muscles, to your extremities, into your heart? Those are the places it's going. So no wonder you're feeling exhausted, right? You're overworked, and then your nervous system is completely activated, creating this vicious cycle to continue this exhaustion, which is why a lot of times people who are physically exhausted even have trouble sleeping, have trouble relaxing and coming down from that because of all the stuff inside your body that's happening. Now, if you're working 10 to 12-hour days and you're physically spent, and that's one thing, right? That is something that we maybe do have some control over and we can mitigate, and I'll talk about that later. But what if you're also emotionally spent and mentally drained, right? Let's talk about that perfect storm. So first, let's talk about emotional exhaustion. If you're emotionally exhausted, chances are you're spending a lot of time in a heightened state, or a heightened emotional state, or dysregulated emotional state, or dysregulated nervous system. You might be crying and sad. You may have anxiety and fear, anger, frustration. Maybe your experience is like a roller coaster of emotions, or just general overwhelm. And it's important to note that emotional exhaustion also impacts your physical body. So we talked about physical, but you have to understand that being emotionally exhausted also impacts the physical body. So if you're physically exhausted and emotionally exhausted, then you have a double whammy here, right? And this leads to things like poor sleep, poor diet, because you don't have a good appetite. Maybe you have soreness in your body, headaches, autoimmune diseases, or other kinds of diseases. So what actually happens in emotional exhaustion? You guessed it, the stress hormones again. They're surging through the body, which further contributes to that exhaustion. So clearly, this is not good for us at all, right? To be in this state of physical or emotional exhaustion. Now let's look at mental exhaustion. Mental exhaustion is where you're having a lot of time spent with, cognitive or mental energy spent. And this could be like if you have a high pressure job, or if you really don't have a good work-life balance and you have a lot of financial stresses, or maybe there's something that happened in your life that is creating a really high mental load for you, like maybe a life issue that now you have to spend a lot of your time thinking about, trying to solve, that sort of thing. And your brain is overstimulated without that rest. So that's the mental exhaustion piece. And my question here is, what does mental exhaustion do to you? Well, it floods your body again with these stress hormones. And when it gets too high, then the nervous system is out of whack and you feel like extremely, wait for it, totally and utterly exhausted, right? So now imagine being physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted, and mentally exhausted. And maybe some of you are like, I already know what that feels like. I don't have to imagine it. And that is the mother load. And if this is the state of your nervous system, long term, right, over time, chronically, imagine the catastrophic consequences to your body. And now that we have this out of the way, right, what I really want to do is I want to jump into these 3 ways. Like, how are these 3 ways that I have going to help you? Now, the first thing, so if you have a pen and paper, you may want to get this out. The first thing is to identify really where the drain is, where the exhaustion is. Is it physically? Is it mentally? Is it emotionally? And kind of figure out the percentages, right? What is the most taxing on you? Is it the physical, mental, or emotional, right? And then you can start to pick that specific area and focus on it, right? So if you are like, I'm not really physically exhausted, but I am mentally drained, right? Every day I get home from work, I have no emotional capacity, I have no physical energy, my brain is fried, and I don't have any space for anything. Then that's where you can start to make some changes, right? What can I do if my job is too mentally taxing? Do I need a vacation? Do I need to take some time off? Do I need to talk to my boss about switching roles? Whatever that might be, right? Same thing like if you're too physically exhausted, right? Can you cut your hours? Is there somebody you can ask to help? Can you delegate responsibilities? Or, It may even be that you have a newborn baby and you're just so physically exhausted because you have to get up every 2 hours. Can you ask for help? Can you get somebody to help you alleviate some of that physical exhaustion? So this is really important to identify, like, where specifically are you drained, right? Because if you can eliminate some of that, first and foremost, that's going to be really, really key and helpful. Now, emotional exhaustion, right? That's really where I come in. And here's what I want to tell you about. Starting with your nervous system and regulating it is going to be so important to help you begin the process of releasing the emotional exhaustion. And how are we going to do this? So here are the 3 ways that we're going to do this. The first thing is to practice doing nothing, okay? And some people will be like, what are you talking about? I can't even physically relax enough to do nothing. So how am I going to do that? Plus I have all these responsibilities and all these things I have to do. But I'm telling you, when you practice doing nothing, this will help you regulate your nervous system to be in the moment, in the now. And I have other episodes about how to be present in the now, so you could go back and listen to those, and that will be really, really helpful to getting you to a place where you can start to regulate your nervous system. Now, I have had clients before who I have suggested that they sit for 1 to 2 minutes alone by themselves with no distractions, no TV, no phone, no music, no nothing, and just literally look at the wall and do nothing. And there have been so many of these clients who I have suggested to do this that really resist it in the beginning because they don't like the feeling of being in silence, or they don't like the feeling of being alone. That's why I suggest doing it for 1 minute, and then you could do it for 2 minutes, and then you can increase it. And the reason why this is important is because when we are in an emotionally dysregulated state, right, and our emotions are all over the place and we feel overwhelmed and we're on this roller coaster, the way to get us off that roller coaster is to start with baby steps, to start small, and to start being present with yourself. And if you're highly resistant to this, I would really, really encourage you to just give it a try. You may even be able to do, like, set a goal for yourself and say, today I'm going to do 1 minute. Tomorrow I'm going to do 2. The next day I'll do 3. The next day I'll do 4. By the end of the month, you're at 30 minutes of this, right? And you are 100% going to start regulating your nervous system. Now, the one thing I want to make sure that I address here is that in this silence, in this time that you're with yourself, if you hear the thoughts coming in, like, you need to do laundry, you're wasting time, you shouldn't be sitting here, there's too much to do, people need you, right? You hear these thoughts come up, right? That is what you need to take note of, observe, and allow it to pass, okay? Now, this might be easier said than done. However, it takes some intentional practice. So you feel the silence. Then all of a sudden, these creeping thoughts start popping in your head. They will. I promise you, it will happen. Oh, I should be doing this. Or your brain starts to go somewhere else to fill that silence. You just gently acknowledge whatever it is that came in. Okay, I see that that's there. I'm going to come back to the present moment. What am I doing right now? I am just being present. I am here. I am being in this moment. I have nowhere to be. I have nothing to do. You can repeat those things to yourself even if you have to. Like, I have nowhere to be. I have nothing to do. I am here. I have nowhere to be. I have nothing to do. I am here. And again, this can be deeply, deeply uncomfortable at first, right? But the more you do it, the easier it's going to become. And it's a slow progression toward meditation, because meditation is going to help you really bring down your heart rate, get oxygen to all the parts of your body, and this definitely helps to regulate your nervous system. So this practice doing nothing is going to be the start to get you to the third tip, which is meditation. The second one is Really important too. It's denying people access to you. And what do I mean by this? Essentially, I just mean boundaries. I mean, if you are so physically and emotionally and mentally drained, why is this? Is it because maybe you don't have good enough boundaries? Like has to be looked at. Maybe you're saying, no, I have great boundaries, right? That's something else. That's a different issue. But for a lot of people, it's, yes, I'll take on this extra project because my boss told me to. Yes, I can stay later tonight for my job because somebody called out. Yes, I'm going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning helping a friend who is going through an issue of herself. Yes, I'm going to do all these extra things for my kids because they're struggling, right? Or whatever that is, right? First and foremost, you got to take care of you. If you are not taking care of you, you are not going to be able to help other people in the best way either, right? So I have experienced this as well, and I am going through a physical issue personally. I just found out I have really high cholesterol, and I've been having some heart issues, some heart pain and things like that. So I am really trying to take care of my physical body. I don't feel emotionally exhausted. I don't feel physically exhausted, but I probably am physically needing to take some time for myself, right? So sadly, I just found out yesterday that one of my daughter's high school friends passed away suddenly in his sleep. And it was a horrible, horrible situation. And my daughter is very upset and very distraught about it. And they're having a vigil. And I know that she probably would like me to go to that, but I have to set the boundary and I have to say no, because I know me, and I know that if I go to this vigil where all these kids and high school kids and people are just sobbing and in emotional pain, that I'm going to experience a lot of emotions associated with that, and it is not going to be good for my heart. I'm already struggling with things going on with my heart. So I do not want that to impact that even more. So yeah, I'm taking care of my health. I'm doing all the things that I need to be doing, taking supplements, but I need to maintain an emotional regulation for myself so that it doesn't impact me physically. So boundaries, this is what I'm telling you, boundaries are so important, because if you do not take care of yourself and you do not say, you know what, actually this isn't the best thing for me, and I'm sorry, that's going to be difficult for you to hear, or you might not like my answer or whatever, but I have to do this for myself. If you're struggling with this concept, go back and listen to the episode that I have about boundaries, because the thing about boundaries is we often feel guilty for setting them, like we've done something wrong, or we should do for other people, or we need to put other people before ourselves. But I'm here to tell you, like, if I don't put myself first in this situation, I might not be here, right? I can't take that risk. And so this is why I want to share this with you, because there are so many things that are happening to our bodies because of our mental states, because of our emotional states, because of being physically or mentally or emotionally drained. And this is key to keeping you healthy in all fronts, mind, body, spirit, right? So number one is practice doing nothing. Number two is really with boundaries, like denying people access to you in any ways that you feel like that you are being overworked or being taken advantage of, or people aren't giving you, or maybe you're not giving yourself the space to be able to heal properly, to be able to take care of your physical body or emotions or your mental capacity, okay? So taking inventory of these things is going to be really key. That's why I said at the beginning, of those three things, where do you feel like the majority is resting, okay? And then the last thing, which the first thing circles back to, is meditation, right? Meditation for complete physical reaction. And some people are like, oh, I hate to meditate, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to tell you, I hated doing it when I first started doing it too. But after I started doing it, it's literally like, it feels like such a deep relaxation that my body, it actually starts to tingle. And I can't even feel my extremities and I just feel like I'm out of my body. It is such a wonderful sensation that you can access pretty much anytime. If you have a pair of earbuds or you have headphones, I highly recommend getting theta, THETA, brainwave meditation on YouTube. They have these go for like 8 hours. You don't need to use 8 hours worth of meditation. You just get into it for as long as that you feel. If you're not like feeling that you can do that on your own, there are lots of guided meditations. I even have a couple on my website in the free resources that you can go to that are guided, that will help you relax. When I do this, I actually keep my Apple Watch right on my wrist, and I start, check my heart rate, and then as soon as I get into this really, really deep relaxed state, I know and I can feel my heart rate is going down. And then when I'm done, I check it. You can look and see like your heart rate. And I get to such a low, calming place in my heart rate that I know that is having a good impact on my body physically. So these 3 things, right? Practice doing nothing. Sit in a chair, on your bed, wherever, I don't care. Look at a wall. Don't look at something that's going to be distracting to you or make your mind go somewhere, like a blank wall, literally. And just be in that moment. Set a timer if you need to for 1 minute, right? And just observe. What does it feel like to be in that moment by yourself for 1 minute? The next day, add a 2. The next day, add a 3. I would love for you to try this out and let me know. Like, you can send me notes here. I think it's called fan mail or something, but it says in the show notes, you can click send a text, and you can just message me and tell me, and it will give you a specific number so that I can give you a shout out on the next episode. Of course, you can use it for anything, but you can also message me on Instagram and Facebook, but it might be easier just to do it here. I just would love to know, like, how did this feel for you when you started practicing this, especially if you're not somebody who's ever really gotten into it or somebody who hasn't really practiced being in the now or meditation for any length of time. Okay, so just as a recap, remember, physical exhaustion, mental exhaustion, and emotional exhaustion all create a stress hormone in your body, right? And if we've got all these 3 things happening at once, right? It's bad enough if we've got 1, and then if we have 2, but what if we've got 3 things happening at one time, right? That's going to create the perfect storm, right? For us to completely spin out or have some sort of catastrophic event. We don't want that to happen. We need to be in emotionally regulated states of mind, and our nervous system is working to protect us. That's why it does that. That's why it forces these hormones so that we can get into a place of protection, to run away, to fight, whatever we need to do in order to survive, right? That's all the nerve. It's doing its job. It's absolutely doing its job, but you are actually part of the equation, and you have the option and the choice to figure out how you want to handle it. And if you are struggling with, well, I can't take less hours, or I can't tell people no, or I can't do this, or that is where your subconscious mind comes in. Those are the things that need to be reprogrammed out of your subconscious mind. You will never be able to hold and set a boundary if you believe that it's wrong to do that on a subconscious level, or that if you do it, it makes you mean, or if you hold a boundary, it means that you don't care about other people. If you have subconscious beliefs that are creating those behaviors, then nothing is ever going to change. So yes, can you take action? Of course, but what if you're like, well, I know logically I need to do this and I need to take this action, but I'm too scared, or I don't have the ability to do this, or I can't make a decision like that. Well, then what I'm going to tell you is, then you need to go back to your subconscious mind, because I talk about that on every single episode here. Going back to your subconscious mind and figuring out what it is that makes you believe that. Why can't you set a boundary? Is it really true that you're mean if you set a boundary? Is it mean of me not to go to the vigil for my daughter because I'm trying to protect my heart health? Because I know that if I go there, it's going to create emotional problems for me and it's going to make things worse, right? Does that mean I'm a mean mom or a mean person, or that I don't care? No, absolutely not, right? So you need to start challenging these things as well, so that you can start making these shifts, so that you can take the action to make the changes to get yourself out of being physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. Now, I'm going to leave you with a quick question here. If you're exhausted and you're thinking, I'm never going to get out of this, then I'd like to ask you, if Allison, got out of it, right? And so have my clients gotten out of it. Why not you too. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you, and your brain and your wiring is no different from anyone else's. Your programming is different, but the way that your brain operates is not any different. And if you want to make these changes, you can do so much with, conscious effort and willpower, but that's only driving 5% of the show. The rest of the stuff that's happening is coming from your subconscious mind, which is running 95% of the show. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, why would you not want to work in the area that has all the power and control? All right, so I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope you will give some of these things a try. Give it a shot to sit in silence and try to work on setting boundaries and get into meditation, and go back and listen to the episodes about being present in the now and then setting boundaries, because this will really help you as well. And if you need support and you want one-on-one support with me, then you can schedule a free consultation from the show notes down at the bottom after this episode. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week.